It was just over a year ago that I had John from YoLink reach out and send me a number of their products, including their smart home hub, a garage door opener, a contact sensor, and some other devices. But as I worked with the products back then, I found the application had a few issues and it wasn't as reliable as I was hoping for. We were trying to work out a sponsored video at the time, but I actually had to say, you know what guys, I don't think this product lineup is ready for our community of automators, and we walked away for a little bit. But today I have a sponsored video, plus I am very excited to tell you about YoLink, which is a system you've probably never heard of, but definitely should. Hello automators, thanks for tuning in again. I'm Brian from Automate Your Life, and today I'm going to take the frustration out of automation by showing you this really unique system, but also a system that isn't overpriced. And let's be honest and just say that that's a rarity in today's smart home market. One of the major reasons for today's video is actually because a number of our patrons had reached out to me over the last year and said, hey, have you heard of this company? Have you seen what they're doing? I'm able to solve some really big things that I haven't been able to do anywhere else. And it's things like that that led me to the point to understand a little bit more about the technology embedded in this system. I'm constantly telling you about Zigbee and Z-Wave and Wi-Fi, and nowadays I'm telling you about Thread, and all of those are wireless communication technologies, but a lot of cities are using a different technology. They're not using any of those to deploy smart city features or capabilities. What they are actually using is called LoRa, and that is what is embedded within all of the devices in the YoLink system. One of the biggest features of LoRa is long range, and it kind of makes sense with that little acronym there, but it's also really low frequency, or kind of low around that Z-Wave range in most countries, and then on top of that, it's intended to be really reliable. This is why smart cities are putting it into their infrastructure. Anyways, this time around, YoLink has sent me a number of new devices, and I'm pretty excited to get these unboxed and opened up, but I have my old system sitting around, and the only device that isn't still plugged in from all of that, or isn't still powered, is my original hub. So I leave that to the side and I start the process of setting up the new hub that I got. And I say process, but it's scanning a QR code in the application and then the device is registered. And that's how it goes with all of the devices from YoLink. So it's a really easy setup process. And I've never had it fail like some other scanning, and it's just great. So anyways, I get this second hub set up and it is instantly finding the other devices that I've had in my home. So I see my contact sensor come online, the smart plug, the smart power bar that I've had, and the leak sensor starts to show up too. All of these devices instantly connect to the new hub, and that's one of the big features of LoRa and the YoLink technology. They don't care which hub they're connected to as long as they're all registered to that same account. So I go and I grab my contact sensor. It's all the way across the house, and when I bring it back, one of the things I want to do is I want to test the reliability of the automations, because this was one of the problems I was having earlier last year when I was testing out the system. I had an automation set up where I opened the contact sensor and it would turn on the smart plug, and close it and it would turn off the smart plug, and I was not getting the best reliability results. But as I do it this time, what I'm finding is it is perfect in terms of reliability, and then I'm surprised by how fast it is. So I actually had to reach out to YoLink, ask John again, are you sure these aren't local automations? Because they are cloud-based. Now, I'll talk about a way in later on in the video that you can actually get around that, but it's cloud-based and yet it seems perfect. And so I said that the application wasn't so great a year ago, and it's not perfect at this point, but I'm noticing a lot of updates and upgrades. So as I'm poking around there, I go into the settings for my contact sensor. I can see that I can get alerts really quickly, but the big thing that I notice is that the battery bar still looks totally full. It's been sitting in my home idle for a year, and if I did that with a Zigbee device or a Z-Wave device or any other battery powered device that I have, would either be dead or probably half dead. And this shows full. So then I go and I find my original hub and I connect that in using its power adapter, but I've actually set up both of these hubs using Wi-Fi, which YoLink tells me isn't the preferred method, but I'm going to do all of this testing using the worst case scenario. So you can connect it in with Ethernet, but I still have yet to do that. Due to this being a LoRa hub, I don't really need the second or third one in this place because actually that technology boasts a 1/4 mile distance. Now, if you were running an apartment building, you might actually run into a situation where this would be really helpful. But what happens to all of these devices is they connect to whichever hub is closest or the best signal strength. So you can have this kind of a mesh system put together, and that's what I have in my home. It just doesn't matter because my home's not that big. But that ability to have such a distance for my devices gives me the opportunity to solve something you guys ask me about all the time. And I walk down the street, I go to my Canada Post mailbox, and I put the contact sensor in there. Now, what I do is I'm using a little bit of sticky tape in there, and I'm just doing little tests, and people are thinking I'm crazy as they're driving by, and I've got my camera out, and I'm taking video of a Canada Post mailbox. But I set up the contact sensor in there, and then I adjust the notification settings to know whenever that comes on or whenever that door is open, and I rename it to mailbox. But I'm finding that my phone is getting just too many notifications in my life in general, and then I don't want to look at them, I don't want to have them, and I turn them off. So instead, what I decide to do is connect this whole system in with Amazon's voice assistant. And I have a brand new Echo Show 10 that I create a routine for. So what I add in there is a notification out of that device, just an audible one. And then I also turn a couple of lights blue to signify that I have mail. Now, obviously you're going to be able to do whatever you want within that scenario, but that's all I need.
Mailbox is opened.
As I'm in the Miss A routines there and I'm working with them, I notice that a number of other YoLink devices are in there as triggers. And this is the first time I've ever seen a leak sensor as a trigger for a routine with Miss A. So that is an entirely unique feature. And speaking of those leak sensors, there's actually a number of them in the YoLink lineup, but the one I like the best actually has a little speaker on it, plus it has a lead attachment that any part of that lead gets wet, you can get a notification. So you can get that under things like your fridge or your dishwasher. Here, I think that's what I'm gonna do with it. Plus, just with that little speaker, I'm gonna audibly hear it whenever I enter the home. However, that leads me into what I think is the most important components that they sent me here, because it's all well and good to have leak detection, but you need to do something with it, and you need to feel really good about that action actually happening. So they sent a motorized valve or a motorized actuator actually, and then they sent a little battery pack, or it's the controller for that. And yeah, it's battery powered, so you could stick this on any part or in any part of your home and have it work. But I know you guys, I know there's a number of you going, yeah, but that's cloud-based automation. I don't want that in such a critical application. And I've talked to you guys about that before. I agree with you. And so I asked YoLink about this before we even got to this point. And what they gave me was an absolutely unique feature of this platform that solves that whole issue. So what you can do with these products is to pair them directly. Now, I say pair, and that suggests two, but I've actually done this now with 4 products. So I took the 2 leak sensors, I took the siren that they sent me, and I took the valve controller, and I paired them all together. And what that actually means is you're holding the set button on both devices for about 4 or 5 seconds, and you see the little green lights go, and they're paired together. And what that means is locally now, when one thing happens, the other actuates. So when my leak sensor goes off, my valve closes. So then I paired the other leak sensor and I paired that siren, and all 4 of those are now working as this local system that requires no interaction from the hub or a cloud or anything else. They're just going to protect my home. And when I think about lots of you guys and lots of your situations, you know what, you got a trailer and you're gone down the road, you don't need internet, you can just pair those products together. I think the same holds true for lots of those little vacation properties, and this works with the whole lineup. So it's a really interesting and unique feature that I think has a ton of application. And there's one other critical aspect to the LoRa technology that really matters here. See, whenever I've put Wi-Fi devices or sometimes even the Zigbee devices, you know what, I put those in a mechanical room, there's a lot of reflective or refractive metallic surfaces and just a lot of materials that are hard for higher frequency devices or higher frequency communication to get through. So, you know, you have this lower frequency again with the LoRa protocol, and that helps it to get into those kinds of spaces. So I really like it for that kind of an application. So with that in mind, I actually decided to try out one of the hardest places to automate in the home, and I've only ever had some success with Z-Wave devices inside of my freezer. So I took their temperature and humidity sensor, and now I know the temperature of my ice cubes at any time. So I have all of these things set up and I'm feeling pretty good about the system, but you guys know that I like ease of use and ease of installation, and that's one of the reasons I've really enjoyed having SwitchBot in my home. I have that little bot or little button that just can press a number of things, but I've actually struggled in a couple of places to use that because the little actuator is just too small. So I was actually struggling getting that to work with the garage door controller that I had. It's actually just a really deep one, so I'd have to do some rigging, and I haven't been successful as of yet to get that button pressed. Plus, my remote is a little funny, and I've seen a number of you have actually stripped off the whole outer cover of those remotes to get to the little button to use SwitchBot button, and this is where the new YoLink finger actually becomes one of my favorite new devices. So I take the garage door sensor, I stick that on there. It takes all of 3 seconds and I know the open or close status of my garage door. Then I take the YoLink finger, and I am literally at this point giving the finger to every other garage door controller, because within a minute I've stuck my remote to the railing in my garage and I've stuck that finger on the railing as well, and I'm able to customize or configure where that finger is. So you get this little ability to make sure that you're always pressing that button perfectly. So I have that set up in moments, and then I decide, okay, let's do this really hard garage door controller that's so deep with this finger device, and it works perfectly again within minutes. So that little adjustable arm becomes such a critical aspect, but I notice inside of the application that the finger and the door sensor have kind of become one device in there. So it's a nice single tap in to see the status and to actually open and close my door. But again, that's not how I want to control things. I don't want to be constantly going into an app. One of the things I am always doing is driving up with my phone that has the Google Assistant on board. So I integrate those devices into the Google Assistant, and I want to find out how that's going to work. Now, for many of you who've used the Google Assistant, you're going to know that when you try and lock a door or unlock a door, it's going to ask you for a PIN code, and honestly, it's pretty random as to whether or not that whole thing works. So I'm a little bit worried as I ask the first time to open the garage door, but it instantly works. It doesn't ask me for a PIN code. It's just treating this device as an open-close type of switch. And so I am able to instantly, with the Google Assistant, as I'm driving up, open and close my garage door. So I have voice control, but I'm kind of hoping in the future that we get something like geolocation or more conditions, because that's actually one of the drawbacks. You know, for those of you who are using something like Samsung SmartThings or Habitat, you're used to multi-condition automations. That's not possible right now with the YoLink system. You kind of only have that one condition or that one trigger event, and then you can execute a number of steps. But, you know, for SmartThings people, Habitat people, there's no integration with those hubs either, and there's not really a HomeKit way right now. So it's not integratable into every system. The other thing that I'm not totally in love with is the application still. There's just a few cosmetic issues, and I'm not in love with the menu system. I wish that would kind of get reorganized one more time. I'm sure that will happen as we go, but it's not stopping me from solving any of these issues that you saw me solve today. And on that note, what I'm betting a lot of you need right now is to see this system in action a little more in depth. So we went out, we created 3 tutorial videos that will show you how to set up devices, how to solve these issues like the garage door, the leak sensor, that pairing of those devices locally, to see how that goes and how that all works. So we created that playlist. It's up on screen for you now. You can go watch those videos. Otherwise, thanks for watching today, guys. And of course, don't hate, automate.